All right, I'm back. All right, let's start. We're doing this interesting Siman, very short one, another short one, 107. Can everybody hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's kind of, in a sense, it doesn't teach anything new. I guess, in a sense, it's a review of things that we've learned, or maybe better, an application of things that we learned. It applies some of the things that we should know by now, and it applies them to an interesting case. Maybe let's start with looking at the tour. And it's so short. Maybe Isaac, you want to read it to us?
Sure, you want me to read the tour?
Yeah, just the tour. Not too fast. Don't read too fast because.
I'm sorry, I'm sounding an incredible amount of background noise from somewhere. I think.
Yeah, people. Maybe somebody has their microphone should be put on mute.
There we go. Okay. כתב בספר המצוות, דגים קטנים שנתבשלו ונמצא בין דג טמא, יש אוסרים אפילו מקירו וזורקו ויש 60 לבטלו. לפי, כשמערה מים החמין, לפעמים בסוף האירוי, עם מעט מים יישאר הדג טמא, עם 20 או עם 30 דגים ונאסרו, וחוזרים המים ונוגעים לכל הדגים. ויש מתירים, מפני שאותם 20 או 30 שנשארים בטלים ברוב תערובת, כי לא שייך לבריה, לא בטלה, אלא בבריה שנאסרה מחמת עצמה, ולא שנאסרה מחמת פליאת איסור אחר. ואין חוזרים ואוסרים השאר שבמחבת, אף על פי שנוגעים בהן המים, לפי איסור הנבלע ואין איסרו מחמת עצמו, אינו חוזר ונבלע ביבש כי אם על ידי בישול.
Okay, very good. So what's the case? Well, first of all, we're talking about these little fish. So presumably somebody is like boiling up, imagine, let's say, a couple 100 little fish. It's kind of, and then what he's doing, he's pouring them off into a serving tray. Yeah? Well, what's the case? Can somebody venture a guess as to what exactly is the case with these fish?
Well, it's a machloket on the Beit Yosef Lebach, I think.
You are right.
Whether you're pouring off half of the fish with water and then another half of the fish onto the serving tray, or you're pouring off all the water and sort of draining the water but leaving the fish in the pot.
Oh, so very good. I was going to ask it as a question to see what people would think on their own, but that is exactly right. That is what so let's say, according to the Beis Yosef, so let's just stick with Beis Yosef for now. The Beis Yosef says that it's a case where you pour it off some of the water and the fish into a separate bowl, and what happened at that point? The tray fish remained, the dag tameh remained in the original kli rishon, and so what's the problem? I don't hear anybody.
The problem is that there's not enough
for it to be batel because you've removed so many by pouring them off.
Right, so it's there with, like, say 20 or 30 fish, and there's not enough to vatel it, and therefore it's treif. All 20 are treif, or all 30 are treif. And then what do? You continue pouring into the serving tray.
And then all the treif ones go into all the kosher ones, and maybe everything now has become treif.
Right.
Possibly everything now has become treif.
Well, right. According to the opinion that says it's treif, they're all treif. Right. According to the opinion that says it's aser, so they all became treif. So why? What happened? First of all, I'll just throw out a question. Don't we say kli sheni eino mevashel? Isn't this kli sheni?
Yes, but it's a birya.
It's a birya. Still, a birya that's cold, and you. Oh, all right. So what's a birya? You're saying what's a birya? All the 20 fish are biryas, or the original one?
Well, isn't that part of the question? Isn't that
That's the point of...
Well, I would say from the end of the tour, it's from the end of what we read in the tour, it sounds like maybe the whole issue is based on birya. You're right. It sounds like that. Although the Beis Yosef doesn't mention that, and neither does the Bach. Nobody seems to go with that, but let's go with that for a minute. If it would be birya, so what's the so what does the first opinion say? He would say that those 20 or 30 fish became biryot because they are whole, and even though they're balua with a non-kosher substance, that's enough to make them usher even at the level of birya. And the Matirim say, no, birya. Oh, I hear some noise there. The other ones say, no, birya is only when it's essentially usher, when it's absorbed something that made it usher. Even if it's a birya, we just look at what's absorbed in it, and what's absorbed in it isn't a birya. It's true that the fish is a birya, but what's absorbed in the fish is just flavor, and that flavor isn't a birya, so we were not going to give it the chumrah of birya. Now, it's not just the little fish that we're worried about, because that little fish, the one that's treif, we can remove. We're removing that. So we're worried about these 20. So these 20 became usher, and now they're birya. So the Torah says, but no, we don't say that. We don't say that they're biryas. We say that since it's just a flavor that's absorbed, it's not a birya. So is the first opinion saying we do hold birya? But the first opinion didn't say anything about birya. It just said, Lefi kishemara mayim chamim lefamim besof ha'irui im ma'at mayim yisharu daga tamei im 20 or 30 dagim v'nesru v'chozrim hamayim v'nogi'in l'kol ha'dagim. They touch everything. And that's all he says. He doesn't say because it's a birya. It just says, it sounds like those 21 touch and make it treif. So we've explored a little bit birya. It could be birya, and that makes a lot of sense. Except that maybe that last argument of the Tur is correct. We do not say birya by an absorbed flavor. So what's the other alternative?
I have a question. The rabbi keeps using the word treif, where the Hebrew seems to be saying aser. I'm wondering, is that an exact translation?
Well, we're calling it a dag tameh. Treif technically, you're right. Treif technically is that there was a treifa in the animal, like a cow had a problem with its lung. So I'm using the word colloquially to just mean aser. Yeah, I mean, you're right. You wouldn't say something is treif. If milk falls on your meat, it doesn't make it treif. It makes it aser. But I was using it colloquially. But anyway, back to my question. What if we don't say birya, and the Beis Yosef doesn't seem to mention it, and the Bach doesn't mention it? So what is the alternative of why it would be aser?
Is it possible that once all the fish are poured in, we just can't differentiate between what is kosher and what isn't kosher? What was originally in the pot and then what gets poured out?
Well, he says that we'll use the word nogin. If that would be the first of all, there's two. What you're saying is that it's not batel because maybe we'll eat one of those 20, and we can't remove them. Well, for sure we can't remove them. But if it's dry, if it's, couldn't we say that it's batel barov? If it's min b'mino? In other words, min b'mino is batel barov, and this is all fish, so it's min b'mino perhaps. It's batel barov, so we could overcome that obstacle. Any other attempts?
Because of the water acts like fat and confuses the iso throughout everything.
The water in the pot is hot, and it cooks all the fish in the klisheni. But don't we say klisheni doesn't cook? So what did we learn about that in Siman Tzadi Bet? Tzadi Bet or Kuf Bet? Well, we learned that already. What did we learn about klisheni?
That it doesn't cook.
It doesn't. Well, is that entirely? Doesn't cook entirely.
Depends on the size.
What if it's hot? Remember? Didn't we say that it cooks kedei klipa?
also have like do you have an Ewe Kli Rishon here?
Oh, another possibility, right? Maybe it's Irui Kli Rishon, and we're holding like Rabbeinu Tam, who says that Irui Kli Rishon is like Kli Rishon. Remember that. Rabbeinu Tam holds that Irui Kli Rishon is Kli Rishon. So here you're pouring the tray fish right on to the kosher fish, and so it's mevatel them. But okay. But wait a second, I just have another question, which is, what? But we just learned in the previous Siman that that we don't say chanan, right? We don't say chanan, and we said therefore if more fell in, you just go by the original amount. In other words, how did we create more? We only had one fish to start with, and that fish was batel because there was 100 other fish. How do we get more treif here? We don't hold chanan, it's shara surim. According to, the tour, and according to, the mechaber, the Beis Yosef. Is this based on chanan? Presumably not.
No, I mean, he specifically doesn't say it's based on that.
Right, so then my question is, we only have originally one piece of one non-kosher fish. How can it treif up 100 other fish? Isn't it batel b'shishim?
Wait,
Well, wondering about this, v'chozrin hamayim v'nogin l'chol hadagim. What's going on with this, with specifying that?
Right. Well, maybe it's like right. It's either there's two possibilities. Either that there's cooking of kli sheni, and maybe it means only kedei klipa, or maybe it's because it's irui kli rishon. But that's already chiddush. In other words, when he says aser, what I'm suggesting is when he says aser, he doesn't mean entirely aser. He just means aser kedei klipa. That's the first possibility. The second possibility is that he's holding like Rabbeinu Tam, and the water, the pouring of the water, is touching everything, and it's hot, and it's called irui kli rishon, and that would also the whole thing. But what I'm just pointing out is that we don't have enough, material to usher everything. We only had 60. We only had one fish originally. How come we created more? Chanan is a mechanism to create more. Because first it makes the other fish, and then the other fish are those 20 fish, are they balua be'isser or are they chanan? Presumably they're just balua be'isser. How much isser? Well, not more than the volume of the original fish. And isn't that, if it cooks in the second pot, it's batel b'shishim.
Wait, so can
Well, wait, hold on. Isn't part of this that once you pour off some, then it's no longer batel b'shishim.
Fine.
And if it's no longer batel b'shishim, then all of those in that pot with it are not batel. And then when you pour that pot into, to join the others, then there's no way it could be batel b'shishim because now suddenly you have so many more treifos.
Right, but they're not treif, they're aserot. They're not aser essentially. They only are aser because they have in them a few molecules of isser.
Yeah, but it's a second degree isser. I guess you could call it. They're not.
Right.
The point is,
you can't eat those ones.
It's not going to be enough to be batel.
But if you add up all the nikudot of isser in all those 30 fish, those nikudot are still less than a 60th of the whole volume here. So how can it usher other fish in the mixture? How can it usher the other fish that are there?
Wait, I'm confused. Are you talking about how can it usher the other fish when it's originally one of 60, or how can it usher the other fish when it's one of 30?
Now the 1 in 30 I understand. The 1 in 30 I understand because now it's 1 in 30, so it can usher those ones entirely. But they still, what we learned in Siman Kuf Vav is that we don't say chanan here. All that's usher in them is some little molecules that are usher inside those fish. But if you take them all together, the total volume of all those molecules is not more than that one original fish, that one original dag tameh. and now you pour it into a second pot of 100 fish. So how can those little dots cause all those 100 fish to become treif? There's 100 of them against the original one.
Well, it's like the process has restarted almost. Like the original 60 didn't matter because we poured some out, and now we have, and we can see the Asur Dag, and then like everything, it's like a new case, so to speak, as if we're starting from scratch. And then once we start from scratch, you can Asur the 30, and then the 30 can Asur the 60.
But I don't see how the 30 can Asur the 60, because the 30 only have in them a few drops. And we don't say Hanan. If we would say Hanan and we start from scratch, start from scratch sounds like Hanan. It sounds like those 20 or 30 fish are fully Asur. They're 100% Asur. And now you need to Mavatel every drop of them. And I'm just pointing out we don't need to Mavatel every drop of them.
Well, isn't some of this also the water?
Also the water, but the water also, it only has not more than the original volume of that fish. We're not saying Hanan. If we're saying Hanan, fine. But presumably nobody here is talking about Hanan. So therefore, there's only... So, yeah, everyone here, I mean, am I just going over the same problem and everybody's answering it and I'm just not understanding the answer?
Isn't it just that the once you take off some, all the remaining fish and water are bolea some of the dog that's Asur?
Yeah, that part I agree. That part I agree. The first 20 are for sure Asur.
Okay. And so then when you pour them in to rejoin that other group, now you have a whole bunch of, dagim that are asurim and not enough to be mevatel.
Well, if you look at it in terms of rove, in terms of solid pieces, there's more than 20. In the pot there was 100, so there's enough to mevatel them as far as numerically. And then, as far as the belua, there's also enough to mevatel the belua. So just because the fish are Asur doesn't mean that we can't mevatel them.
Are you knowingly pouring? Do you know that the dog? Do you know at what stage do you know that the dog is Asur?
Oh, so presumably the kid. Yeah. So
because if you know this and then you're intentionally pouring out to rejoin them.
Right. No, you're right. That would be a problem. But no. What's going on here is that you're brought a plate of fish, of 100 fish, and you look on the serving tray, on the dinner table. Someone brings out 100 fish, and you look at it. And you say, "Hey, this one is a shrimp. What is this shrimp doing here?" So you take it out, and the person says, "Oh, well, it's just a 1 in 100, so it's all mutter." And he says, "Wait a second, it's not, because maybe you poured it in stages, and maybe you've traced up all 100, or that's what's going on. This is like a calculation. It's not like we're worrying that maybe this is what happened." That's the way most of the people explain it.
Can I suggest something?
Yeah.
Can we check the smog?
The smog is where it's from. Well,
I'm looking at it and I think it actually makes it a little clearer.
I don't have it in front of me, so if you want to read it to us, go ahead.
Sure. Okay, well, first of all, it starts with sherbet, which is fun.
Sherbet?
Sherbeti. Yeah, Goshish, Shelfulim. I think it says Sharbiti, but I imagine that's sherbet. Shell Pois, Gosis maybe, and Shini Bashluv Nimsa Tolea Be'echane. What is you're cooking something? You find a worm.
No, not tola. I think it's tole. In other words, it says tol. I don't know what you're reading, but it could be that you assume tole. But read me the whole sentence.
Okay. Some kind of sherbet, or some kind of thing of maybe beans, shofulim, or voice, which cook, it means it says top of lamed ayin. I think that's
Taf.
be'echad. It seems like it's a noun.
Taf vav lamed
Ayin.
ayin. Tola. Yeah, that could be a worm. Yeah.
You find some treif in it. השרביט, staff, that'd be weird. שנמצא בה התולה זורק לחוץ, והשאר שיש שאוסרים ואפילו על ידי שישים של התר שיש במחבת.
Okay.
וכן דגים קטנים שנתבשלו ונמצא באחד מהם דג טמא, דג טמא זורק לחוץ, והשאר יש שאוסרים אפילו על ידי שישים.
Yeah.
כשנערה המים חמים טעמים בסוף העירוי, אם מעט מים ישנו לדג טמא, אם 20 דגים או 30 ונאסרו, וחוזרים ונוגעים חמים.
And they touch each other. That's the problem. Okay. V'chozrin v'nogin.
It seems like it's saying like it's creating some kind of like treif stew.
Yeah, fine. Go, read on.
The water becomes
Klipa.
Yeah. Wait. Okay. Wait. I think Gila may be onto something there. But go on. Read on. Just finish what you're reading.
It's like it's more than clean. That's the end. And then that brings in Harav, Rabbi Baruch, and Rabbi Yitzchak.
Right. So that doesn't add in. And that's what we saw. But wait. What did Gila want to say?
Well, it seems like it's very clear what's happening. It doesn't suggest to me at least that it's Kedei Klipa. And the second thing is that it seems like the main issue is that there's mediating agent. The main issue, and I think Atar said this before. The main issue is that maybe it's just specifically like with fish thing, like with the jelly that comes with filter fish. It's more substantive than just regular water. It becomes a transmitting agent.
But you're not relating to my question. You're not relating to my question is how one unit cannot be batel in 100.
Well, maybe that's, the point being, as it says, that they're touching, specifically nogin, and I think when you remove some of the water, right, so you no longer have the water in it, they're touching, and it's klipa in a kli rishon, and then that would answer all of them.
And why isn't Shisha even going to help us?
Well, you don't have shisha.
Tell me why not.
So you remove the water. You removed enough of.
No.
Well,
Are you saying that there's not enough fish? There's more than 60 fish for sure.
no, but when when you answer something because of the klipa, why would 60 matter?
Yeah. You're on the right track. I think you're on the right what I was thinking. But explain yourself. Why should? Of course it matters. 60.
Basically, at this particular stage, right? Once you remove, let's say, half, okay, and you're now stuck in the pot with less broth or less water, and you have you have one trace dag, and then all these other initially kosher dagim. But in the absence of that water, in the absence of the water or less volume, then they're all touching this trace dag in a kli rishon, in which case that would answer them, right?
Yeah.
In the absence of water, there would be more usher than when the water was there.
Well, I think let me throw out the way I understand it, because I think we've now seen all the different sides of this, and I think what's going on here is that when we say that something is usher kedei klipa, we're saying, well, that's a kula, right? We're only saying it. You can remove the klipa and you can eat what's underneath, so it's a kula. But there's actually a downside to saying klipa, because what you're saying is that the balua doesn't permeate the entire object. It just goes into the klipa. So if it doesn't permeate the entire object, then you can't be sure that you can't use the entire object to create your shishim to mevatel it. And that's what Gila was having in mind. In other words, the only reason we have the right to use all those 100 fish to mevatel our tam is if we're cooking it in a pot over the flame, and then the flavor permeates everywhere. But when it's in a kli sheni, and it only goes kedei klipa, then the balua just goes into each fish a little bit, and we don't even know how much. When we say take off klipa, that's just to be sure. That's just a overkill. We don't know how thick it went in. Maybe it only went in a tiniest amount. But we remove a whole klipa, but we don't know that it actually went there. So it could be. So that means since it didn't get spread out throughout all the fish, didn't get used up, and therefore there's still of the original flavor left to get into 1,000 fish, because it's only going in klipa. It's not going into the whole substance of the fish. So it actually can potentially osir more than 60 fish, but of course it won't osir them entirely. It'll just osir them kedei klipa. So I think that's the way that's the way. I think that's the way you have to learn it, actually. But whether according to the Bach or I was going to say that's according to the Bach, but even the Beis Yosef I think holds like that.
But wouldn't it say something about people? I mean,
I agree with you. It's a problem. That's why it threw everybody. Right, I agree with you. It just says usser. But let me see if I can show you where somebody says it. Does the Beis Yosef say it? So you guys all. I'm glad you all saw this Beis Yosef. No, he doesn't seem to say klipa, but let's look at the Bach. The Bach really explains it correctly. The Beis Yosef is attacked by the Bach. Let's look at the Bach a little bit.
which Bach?
Aleph on Kuf Zayin. So I'll read a little bit. He says like this. Biur Advarim. Oh, he's going to explain to us. Biur Advarim. Dila'achar shenitbashlu hadagim mara hamayim chamin min hamachvat letoch kli acher. You pour the hot water into another pot. Bli shum dagim, without any fish. So it's kind of like you're boiling. Somebody asked me, well, why would you do that? Don't you want to use the water? Like, why are you pouring off all the water and keeping the fish? So I thought, well, it's kind of like you're boiling potatoes. So you pour off the water, and you just want to boil potatoes. So, l'kli acher, bli shum dagim, umara kol hamayim kulan shebetoch hamachvat letoch kli acher. You pour off all the water. V'lo nishar shum rotev b'machvat. V'im ken, data osrim. The data of the osrim is shema bes. First of all, we've already seen that's totally different from the Beis Yosef. The Beis Yosef understood it as being two pourings. You pour it off a little bit, and then there was 30 left over, and then you pour it off another little bit. The Beis Yosef has a picture, kind of like you pour off into the pot some, and then it's like two stages of pouring fish and water into a pot. He's saying no, you're pouring off all the water, and maybe you're throwing away the water. You're pouring it off, and we're worried about what's going on in the pot. V'im ken data osrim shema besofa irui nishar hadag tamei im esrim or shloshim dagim im ma'at mayim. So here he does say a little bit of water is there, even though he previously said that there's no water. But he means like you're trying to get off all the water, and you left a little bit in the pot as you tilted it. You're tilting the pot. You're sort of putting the lid over it, and you're pouring off the water by tilting the pot. V'neas rukulan, those 30, ki hamayim chamin, because it's a kli rishon. Hamayim chamin molichin azatam bekulan. It spreads the water everywhere. B'toch hamachvat ve'ein behem shishim levatel v'acharkach kishemara gam otan ma'at mayim. When you finally pour off the rest of the water, lo nishar shum mayim b'machvat nagu otan shloshim dagim shenesru b'shar kol hadagim sheb'machvat ba'odan chamim b'kli rishon. They're still hot now, and it's a kli rishon. Shehu hamachvat. That's the pot. So he says, Aval haBeit Yosef piresh demayri deira hadagim min hamachvat letamchui b'shtei pamim. That he did like two abrupt pourings into a pot. And there's half the fish went into a pot, and then the other half of the fish went into the pot. Which is not at all what he said. V'chayshinan shema kisheira techila hadagim nishar hadagat hamei b'machvat im ma'at hadagim u'ma'at hamayim v'chule. V'tema gedola. And this is a shocking thing, he says. This is, he thinks he has a big kasha on the Beis Yosef. The lefi perusho, because according to the Beis Yosef, the ira hadagim im harotev min hamachvat letamchui b'shnei pamim im kain Pshita de nesarin kol hadagim al yedei shemara besof hadagim hanisharim im hamayim v'neesru midagat tamei shebeinehem. Because when you're pouring it, you're pouring hot liquid, and it's gonna ruin the second group. The second group will ruin the first group that's in the serving tray. De'az neesru gam hadagim she'ira techila. Then the first group that we poured will become aser b'tamchui al yedei harotev, because of the rotev shemara besof demolich ha'isr. Because once you have a liquid, now we can't say it's yavesh, and we can't say that it doesn't spread. It does spread now. Demolich ha'isr b'shas irui b'kol hadagim the irui k'kli rishon l'chumra, because we consider irui like kli rishon according to the Beinu Tam. Ubeki hai gavna lechaman deshari, and we'll never permit it. In other words, there would be no materin. According to the case that the Beis Yosef says, he's saying, I can explain the osrim side, but I can't explain the materin side. I don't explain the machloket. Who, according to the Beis Yosef, would mater such a case? Why? When he says it's asr, does he mean it's asr kedei klipa, or does he mean it's kulo asr? The irui kekli rishon l'chumra. I think again you have to say that he's saying klipa. But the point is there would be no one to mater it entirely. Whereas there would have been an entire matering case, according to the Bach.
You're going to tell me that today klipa is a chumrah? Yes.
According to Rabbeinu Tam, Irui Mikli Rishon is exactly like Kli Rishon, and it's Aser totally. But according to others, it's cliche. It's like Klisheni really, and therefore it's only Aser Kedei Klipa, I guess. I don't know. You're right. I don't know. I'm asking you as a question. Irui Kli Rishon l'chumra. He says it's a chumra that it's like Kli Rishon. Now, it's not really like Rishon, but l'chumra, and therefore what? And therefore it's entirely aser? Okay, it's entirely aser. So fine, let's say it's entirely aser. So why don't you have 60? Why about my question? You have 60 against it. You have 100 fish. If it's like Rishon, so that's what he means l'chumra. He means we even if we aser the whole fish, not kedei klipa, but it's only a l'chumra. We don't really think it penetrated. If it would have really penetrated, then it would be batel, because there's more than 100 fish. There's more than 60 fish. But it's only l'chumra that we consider it like a kli rishon. It's not really a kli rishon. If it's really a kli rishon, then we'd have a kula. If it's really a kli rishon, then you're just cooking it and then it spreads throughout. But it's kli rishon l'chumra, which means it might not be like kli rishon and it might be like kli rishon. So since it might not be, we don't know how much it's going to go in. So therefore, you don't have 60.
Okay, I can live with that. I mean, you can say, I like what you say, and you can say that Irui is Rishon l'chumra, but then it has whatever effect it has.
Yeah, but only l'chumra. It doesn't have the kula. It doesn't have the kula of 60 creating a bittul.
That's, I think, correct. I think you're correct.
That's a major point. It's a major point to be clear on, everybody, which is that when we say Irui is like Kli Rishon, it's not going to really have all the repercussions of Kli Rishon, that it's going to actually matter if there's 60. If you pour, let's think of an example. You pour boiling hot treif soup onto some food in a kli sheni, and you say, oh, well, there was a lot of food there, and I have 60 against the soup. So you say, no, we don't know that you had 60 against the soup, because we don't know how far it penetrated into each piece. So therefore, all of them will be aser, totally. And in general, whenever we say klipa, we're not going to be able to have the 60 as a heter. So that's a big machloket between the how to understand the case. There's a huge shock on this, which I'm not going to read with you all because it's maybe you read it. Hopefully you read it. It's very long, but I can summarize it for you a little bit. I'm talking about the shock in Kuf Zayin. Aleph. Kuf Zayin Aleph. The first shach there. And well, maybe I can summarize it for you. I hope I can. Let's see. First of all, he quotes the Riva, who holds that everything is forbidden entirely. In other words, the fish are aser not kedei klipa. Kind of like Josh was trying to say. In other words, it's not just kedei klipa. Forbids he agrees with the Bach's approach that it's not like the Beit Yosef but actually all the fish are staying in the original Kli Rishon, and when you put the pot back horizontally, everything mixes up and it's Kli Rishon and it's cooking, and he ignores the idea that it's dry. Maybe the fish are. I think one people said maybe the fish are fatty. Maybe that's the explanation, but he considers it as it's fully cooking and usering everything. Because remember, if it's fatty, then it permeates. That's the Riva. Then there's Rabbeinu Baruch.
Is just by the way, is fish fat a thing?
Yeah, I was also sort of surprised by what he was talking about. He mentioned something about fish fat.
Yeah.
I don't know anything. I mean, fish. Some fish are very fatty. Salmon is a very fatty fish.
Well, it actually, usually very small fish aren't that fat. That's what's curious about this.
They're oily small fish.
They're oily, but not like what? Sardine?
Actually, herring is a fatty fish.
We're talking fish have a whole schmaltz. That's the thing. Like fish are. This makes the most sense to me. I think needing to like kind of ram it into an already existing concept means we're left with the same problem that you introduced the shir with, Rabbi. Namely, like, you're like, why is this even a thing? It seems like we've already covered all this stuff before. But that's only if we think this isn't saying something new. I think part of what it's trying to say that's something new is that we have this. They're clearly tiny fish, right? They're small enough that they're cooking, like scores of them at a time.
Yeah.
So it seems like the fish are becoming a kind of medium themselves, which is still treated as some kind of like transmitting substance, even though they're technically not.
Agreed.
If the fish are whole, I'm not so sure why the fattiness is relevant. If they were filleted or cut up in some sense, the fat would be.
Well, no, I'll just wait. I don't know if.
Content. We're talking about like the fact that they're like small seeds.
I think we had a shear.
Look like a fish in a pan and stuff and leaks all over.
Wait. Remember, we had a shear. We had a shear with Rabbi Landis not so long ago, where we talked about roasting. Now, roasting, we said that when they touch, it just goes kedei klipa. But we said that if the meat is fatty, then we don't know how far it goes. In other words, it permeates throughout. L'chumra, again, l'chumra. Maybe it goes throughout, and therefore we forbid the whole thing. Of course, we don't know how far exactly it went. But anyway, so it permeates throughout. So once you pour off all the water, it's equated now to a case of roasting. So if the fish are fatty, then it'll permeate. And then we can still not have 60 because we don't know if it fully permeated, but it might permeate throughout all the fish, and therefore they all become aser because of a suffix. But I think it fits into the category that we learned before of roasting and fat causing the flavor to go further. I think that is the basis of the Rivah's opinion. Is that, can you accept that, Josh?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, maybe also, I don't know, the Bach uses water and rotev interchangeably, so if they're cooked in water, then it pours out and becomes rotev. Maybe there is a connotation there that this water has been translated into something else.
Yeah. But you mean a fatty rotev, or you mean
like a fatty liquid? Yeah, like it's
right? So maybe the fish became coated with some kind of fatty sauce, right? And that makes them permeate more. In any case, the Rivah holds that it fully becomes aser. What I have written here, the Rabbeinu Baruch says, all you need is rov, because it's also like a dry situation. The 20 and 30 do not transfer their balua without sauce. Right, basically the Rabbeinu Baruch is exactly like the Bach. I mean, really it's the other way around, I think but as far as time-wise, but the Rabbeinu Baruch is saying, like the Bach says, that that you need the materin of the Bach, that this is only an absorbed balua, and therefore it doesn't go through at all in roasting in dry situations. But you need to have at least a rove of fish, and we can see that becomes very relevant, because we're going to see the next case is the eggs case, and the assumption is that when you boil eggs, you don't have 100 eggs. Nobody boils 100 eggs. I mean, I don't know what the Metzias was at the time that this was being written, but apparently people did boil 100 little fish, but they didn't boil 100 eggs. They boiled maybe 60 eggs. So, or let's say 70 eggs. So, or not 70 eggs, let's say 50 eggs. So if 20 of them became treif, there wouldn't be a rove against them. If 30 of them became treif, there wouldn't be a rove against them in the other 50. Whatever, maybe people only cook 30 eggs. So if 20 of them became treif, then there's not a rove. So Rabbeinu Baruch's opinion is you only have the heter if you have rove, if you have enough that there should be a rove of kosher ones against whatever was remaining in the pot, or remaining in the water. And if you did it like, if you poured slowly, like the Beis Yosef says, or in 2 times or slowly, then everything will be aser kedei klipa, because the pouring action forbids kedei klipa. So the Bach's shach, sorry, that sounds funny. The shach that the Bach had about the Beis Yosef saying it's matir. He says, remember he said, who would ever matir such a case where you poured and then you poured a second pouring? So the shach comes to the defense of the Bach, of the Beis Yosef, and says, no, what he means when he says it's mutter is he means it's mutter, but it's aser kedei klipa. When he says it was mutter, he just meant it's not totally aser. Of course it's mutter, but you have to remove the klipa. Because of the pouring, of course, is going to ruin the klipa. But that's only klipa. So that's how the shach defends the Beis Yosef. He says the Beis Yosef never meant when he said it's mutter, when he explained that the opinion that says mutter is where you pour it in 2 stages, he never meant to say that mutter was a total mutter. In other words, the aser is a total aser, but the mutter is just mutter as compared to a total iser. But of course, you have to remove klipa. Klipa is the chumrah because of pouring, yeah. Now, the third opinion that's actually very important to know is Rabbeinu Shimshon. Did anyone see Rabbeinu Shimshon? Or some people call him the Rash. I don't know if anyone calls him the Rash, but Rabbeinu Shimshon says that we assume that the fish is with the majority. The Maharshal and the Torah Hatat of the Ramah adopt this theory, especially regarding the eggs. In other words, the eggs, we said it's going to be Aser according to the Rebbeinu Baruch, because you don't necessarily have a majority. But the Rebbeinu Shimshon has this amazing idea, and actually we should see it in. We should see one line. Let me see if I have it here. Yeah, you know what it actually is? It's actually in. I skipped it. It's actually in the Beis Yosef. So I turn back or scroll back. Scroll or turn back to the tour. Kuf Zion. It's also mentioned in the Shach, but let's see it in the tour. Let's see it in the Beis Yosef. At the very begin. Where is it? It's the second section of the Beit Yosef. First he says Aleph. It's still in Aleph, but after that he says, he has a first paragraph, and then the second paragraph says Katuv Od B'Smag, and then at the bottom there it says V'od Haya Omer Rabbeinu Shimshon. If you do a word search for Rabbeinu Shimshon, Shin Mem Shin Vav Nun, Sofit, it says V'od Haya Omer Rabbeinu Shimshon Tamacher Lahatir. He has a different reason to matir, and this is also very interesting. Sheyesh lanu lomar de isura beruba ita, because we can presume that the isser is in the rove. Kadamrin bezvachim, like we have a gemara like that. Hilchach ein letlot shebesof ha'irui im me'at hamayim nishar sham hadag hatamei ad kan sham. In other words, the whole problem was because we assumed that the Dag Tameh was left alone with 20 other fish. Never leave your Dag Tameh alone with 20 fish. It'll usher them and usher everything. But he said, the Rebbeinu Shimshon says, Ma pitom, we assume such a thing. You don't know that. We can assume that the Isser is Beruba, is wherever the rove is. When you were pouring, you poured, the rove was always somewhere. Either it was in the original pot or in the second pot. But wherever it was, that's where it fits to the Beis Yosef's understanding that you're doing two pourings. So if you did the first pouring and you poured off most of the fish, well, guess what? The tray fish was with the most. In other words, we can always be told that the Isser is with the rove. And therefore it's Batel. And therefore the Torah Chatat wants to permit the eggs also on that basis. There's eggs that, let's say, had a blood spot, and you cook them. He says you assume that the Isser is with the rove. So that's a totally different way of creating a heter.
I thought something actually had to be batel. We don't go by rule.
Oh, so what are the rules? When do we go by rove? When don't we go by rove? We go by rove, so it's like this. Theoretically, we go by, whenever there's dry things, we go by rove. And whenever there's wet things, flavor transfers, so we go by shishim. If it's min b'mino, so we have to measure shishim. If it's min b'she'eno mino, we can taste it with a Gentile. We can have a Gentile taste it. If it's dry, we should go by rove always. So we say it like this. If it's min b'she'eno mino, then we're going to make a gezerah. Even though rove is really enough, since you could cook, since you might say, oh, now I have this two different things, min b'she'eno mino, and I cook them. When I come to cook them, there'll be a flavor transfer because they're different flavors. And then I'll have a real problem of deraita problem. So therefore, I'm not going to rely on rove. I'm going to require 60 because I might come to cook them. But by min b'mino, where even if you cook them, there's no flavor transfer. There's no flavor because it's all the same flavor. We actually will let you rely on rove. So min b'mino yavesh is rove. And according to the Ramah, who goes after name in determining whether it's min, what min it is, if you say these are all fish, and the name of it is fish, then it's min b'mino, and it's dry, let's say, because you poured it off the water first, like the box says, let's say. So then it would be batal b'rov. That's the only way you could come up with it, if you followed all my steps. You could go batal b'rov if it's dry, and it's min b'mino. And there are those that... What?
It's in water.
Yeah, it's in water. You're saying according to the Beis Yosef's opinion, it's in water. Or even according to the Bach, it's in water at a certain point. No, because according to the svara of Rabbeinu Shimshon, when you poured it off, it was in the dry part. It wasn't in the bottom part. The treifa fish wasn't in the bottom. It was in the top part where it was dry. And there it could be batal b'rov. You say, well, wait a second. If it's a shrimp and a fish, it's not really min b'mino. But if we say fish are fish, and in fact, somebody once pointed out to me that in the Tanakh, there's no word for any sea animal other than dog. Even by the whale of Yonah, it's called a dog. Everything is a dog. I mean, maybe you could say the tanin, the crocodile, it's not really a fish. So,
It's also Leviathan in
Leviathan, yeah, Leviathan. Well, if it's a whale, then people will say, well, whale's not a fish either. I don't know, whatever. You're right. There's Leviathan. There's Leviathan. There's tanin. Yeah, there's some, but basically, dog is what we don't really see salmon in the Bible or any names of fish. Certainly not scaly fish. So maybe.